Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Togo live stream. We're doing news, and the first news we want to cover, I'm going to take it over to Cecelia because I am just not competent to discuss it. Cecelia, you want to tell us about the IATSE strike?
I do. I want to adjust my lighting though because I didn't realize it was this harsh today. All right, so uh, IATSE is like in New York terms, it's the stagehands union. That's kind of how people think of it here, but across the country, they sort of run the entertainment industry. It's stagehands, it's PAs, it's your electricians. It's pretty much everybody you're going to run into on a set. Um, the the issue that's going on right now is the Producers Association, the American Motion Picture. Everything has 100 letters in its acronym. Um, they went into negotiations for a new labor agreement, as they do every 3 years. Part of that labor agreement is they are interested in closing the gap between new and old media. New media is really considered anything that's intended for streaming only or for online only content. And you get paid significantly less to do that sort of streaming only stuff. And you see this across the entertainment industry. Anything that's considered new media, you just get paid a lot less. They're trying to close that pay gap. The producers did not like that. And now IATSE might go on strike. IATSE's been around for, I believe, 128 years, and they've never gone on strike before. And so they're voting on that resolution this Friday through the weekend. And if they do, the entire entertainment industry is going to shut down because there's just no way to run anything if you don't have your PAs and your stagehands. So it's a pretty unprecedented time right now in the industry. And considering the Tony Awards sort of just happened, and there was sort of a lot of disappointment there in how they handled some of their streaming agreements, and how they've handled it in the past, and how they've handled paying artists in the past there before. As somebody who had to get the orchestra for Hamilton paid one year, it's sort of thrown into relief that the industry is still, for all that it has tried to change, is still operating in really traditional ways. So we are keeping a close eye on the IATSE strike. We, as online creators, will benefit from these other labor unions pushing for greater legitimacy around new media. And so, obviously, if they do strike, we'll give you guys some information on how to stand in solidarity with them, and what you can do to help them. I'm sure they will establish a strike fund. If you have the means to donate, I would encourage you to. But we will keep you posted because that's still kind of unfolding. And there's no guarantee they will strike, but they are asking the members if they should. And most of the members seem to be of the opinion that they absolutely should. Yeah.
All right. Cool. So, sorry, my brain is not 100% here tonight, but we've got four stories to talk about tonight.
We have never been 100% here in the entire history of I don't know why you expected today to be different.
Usually I'm at 80. Today I'm at like 40. All right, so we've got 4 articles tonight, and I'm just going to give you guys the menu to choose from. We've got one from the LA Times, Why Captions Are Everywhere on TikTok, quote, glasses for your ears. One from The Verge, a teenager on TikTok disrupted thousands of scientific studies with a single video. One from Nexstar Media Wire, TikTok removing devious licks videos from platform amidst complaints from schools. And one from CNN Business, the Chinese version of TikTok is limiting kids to 40 minutes a day.
I mean, selfishly, I just want to hear about the devious licks being taken off the platform because it has been making everyone's life miserable that works in a school.
I definitely did see a TikTok video today about someone complaining that a student stole an entire sink.
I think that's the first one that I saw, that it was like devious licks, and I'm like, what the heck? And that was what it was. They stole a freaking toilet. I was like, oh my God.
Like, do I find it objectively funny? Yes. Do I also find it objectively horrifying as the child of a teacher who is going into education? Absolutely. I'm surprised they stayed up as long as they did, to be completely honest. Like, this feels like a blatant breaking of community guidelines.
Well, because like technically, I believe one of the community guidelines is like no illegal activities.
Yes.
And theft is in fact an illegal activity.
Is it really theft if it's for a meme?
Yes, it's still theft if it's for a meme.
In the eyes of the law, yes.
Oh God. So what did it actually take to get this taken down?
All right, so see, TikTok is removing videos that show students bragging about stealing items from their schools after the trend started to take off earlier this month. The devious lick trend, as it's known on social media, has resulted in students stealing items from their schools, or in some cases literally ripping fixtures off their schools' bathrooms, according to educators in numerous districts. Videos later posted by some of the students show them removing the ill-gotten goods from their backpacks, bragging about the devious licks, or thefts, that they were able to get away with. Other times, the students simply destroying school property, an act also attributed to the trend by educators in some districts. We've seen students ripping soap dispensers off the walls and throwing them across the bathroom. Ben Fobert, the principal of Mountain House High School in Mountain House, California, said in a statement provided to KTXL. We've also seen paper towel dispensers completely ripped off the walls. Students have ripped off the dividers between urinals in the boys' bathrooms. In addition to warning students against such behavior, some schools, like Cram Middle School in North Las Vegas, have had to send letters to parents or otherwise notify the community after connecting a spate of stolen items and vandalism to the social media trend. Please, check your child's cell phone. Check their social media accounts. See what they're doing, Cram Middle School's principal Gary Bagash told KLAS. That will help us here in our education system. TikTok confirmed Wednesday. Sorry, go ahead.
I would like to note that in my chat on my TikTok live, someone said someone stole floor tiles, which was the most impressive. And I'm not going to lie, that would also be the most impressive for me. That's dedication.
Well, I guess it really depends on how old your school is and how tough the grout is.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, my dad installed flooring for a living, so I could have brought tools.
I am so
TX to remove your
I will say I am so out of touch with like the language of the youths because I originally saw devious licks and said, oh no, the stupid trend where people lick things in grocery stores is back. That was my immediate thought.
I'm sorry, what trend?
Do you not remember that from a year or two ago?
Yeah,
when
just
people were going into people before COVID, kids were like going into stores, opening it up an ice cream, licking it, and then putting it back.
Yeah, and some other things too, like cakes and
cookies.
That's
how we got COVID.
I wish I'd known about that right at the start of COVID, because remember when like all of those scaremongering articles about wet markets were going around?
No,
I would have loved to just like respond to every single one of those on Facebook with a link to an article about American teenagers licking ice cream and then putting it back in the store.
It's the youth.
What was that other one? Just because the other place that my mind went was the licking of the ice cream one also, but the licking the people's eyeballs thing, because you don't have nerves on your eyeballs.
Okay, listen,
and I'm just like, what the hell is wrong with me?
That's really old.
There is not a lot.
Forever.
There is not a lot in this world that like squigs me out. Hungry eyeballs. No, thank you.
That one I've never actually heard of there being firsthand evidence for. I think that one might just be a moral panic.
I saw a video. If there's even one video out there, if somebody did it. So gross.
Anyway, so TikTok has started taking the videos down.
Right. TikTok confirmed Wednesday that it is in the process of removing videos connected to the devious licks trend, which are in violation of the platform's community guidelines. Quote, TikTok comms, we expect our community to create responsibly, online and IRL. We're removing content and redirecting hashtags and search results to our community guidelines to discourage such behavior. Please be kind to your schools and teachers.
I'm sorry. They expect what?
Can I just say that, like, when the news article transcribed that, they bracketed in real life for IRL?
This is just...
Anyway,
old. It's
yeah, I understand. It's necessary, but it's also funny.
This is another one of those articles where they're like, this is about the youths, but we're writing it for the older people.
Mm-hmm.
So we're using language that's not quite wrong, but it's not that correct either.
So
Uncanny Valley.
My question is, so having witnessed the devious licks trend firsthand, because I have all of those burner accounts that I use to look at other parts of TikTok, looking at that trend, it did not click with me right away that these children were showing me stolen goods from their school, until a kid unzipped his backpack and it was like a hand dryer from the bathroom, and I had this moment of like, oh shit, those like 10 videos I just saw were kids stealing things from their school. So I'm almost wondering if it didn't click with TikTok right away that this was something they had to be worried about. Do you think this is a case of like the olds, as we are, did not realize that this trend was about completely vandalizing your school bathroom?
Fully, because TikTok very rarely actually understands the trends that are going around.
I want to give them a little bit more credit and say this was like Uncle Logic, where they like, wait, let's see what happens.
Well, but we know that's true too because of that stupid article that was like, okay, we're just going to let the bots moderate the whole thing. We'll find out what the rules are as we go. That's exactly what this is.
They'll get caught, right? Their parents will do something. Will open their child's bedroom door and see them pulling out a full hand dryer from their school's bathroom and be like,
meanwhile, hey, I'm over here on the other side of it. Like, listen, is it whatever? It is what it is. Children, don't videotape your crimes.
Don't videotape your crimes. Commit your crimes without videotaping.
This is just like sage advice from your auntie Micah, who would never endorse criminal activity. Don't videotape your crimes.
No one on the stream is going to endorse criminal activity, but if you are going to do it, please stop posting proof.
If you're going to do it, I'd rather you do it in the house.
Or just blanket at for all children. That like old line, the revolution will not be televised, is advice.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
Right,
at least that maybe this will maybe slow it down. I don't know. Will it?
I mean,
or will it just encourage?
We've locked them up for like almost 2 years. I mean, this seems to be the minimal amount of things they could do, because there was the milk crates, and we all like kicked up a fuss. I'm like, fine, I won't run on milk crates. I'll just steal the hand dryer from school.
We should have let them keep running on the fucking milk crates.
My favorite is who's stealing the dividers between the urinals? That just hurts you.
That seems nasty to touch.
Somebody who believes in that segregation shouldn't be enforced in place.
I am sorry for the complete like change of subject, but that advert in the corner for StreamYards while we're on StreamYards threw me off for a second.
I was thinking about saying right at the start of the article, hey, look, we get targeted ads on Toka.
Great.
So yeah, TikTok's effort to remove the devious videos comes shortly after the platform announced that it was banning videos related to the milk crate challenge, which tasked social media users with ascending and descending an unsecured makeshift staircase made from milk crates. The trend soon prompted warnings from doctors, police, and even whole municipal health departments, one of which warned participants to check with your local hospital to see if they have a bed available for you before attempting the dangerous stunt.
I really love it when health care providers and like institutions start getting real snarky because they've just had enough. Like 10 out of 10.
Yeah, but again, like they've been locked up for like 2 years. We could have just let them keep running on the milk crates because they are ripping their schools apart now.
Yeah, but the problem with the milk crates is like currently there's not enough beds in hospitals for people who need them. We don't.
And
need to
also,
put
like
more
realistically, where were they getting the milk crates if not their school's cafeteria?
I
Oh,
don't
you
know.
can get them on. I don't
know
know
where
where
they're
they're
getting
Amazon
them.
dirt cheap.
I don't
Yeah,
know
like-
if we have like room to like talk about this because like we are the generation that did planking. That we all thought planking was a good idea. Every generation gets one. We all
I don't know
get
what you're
one.
talking about. I at no point thought planking was a good idea.
But first of all, but here's the thing.
You're
The
very
difference is that
special.
Everybody's better than everybody. Ooh.
I think the bigger story is like again they've been locked up for like 2 years. I expect like a level of obscene chaos that just like has not been seen before from the children. Most of them are not doing the wildest damage. We're remembering the wildest damage because again, like what kid walks into his school's bathroom, rips out the divider and walks out? Like how do you even leave the school with that? But most of them just seem to be like egging the one kid at their school who's doing this on much more than it's like a mass of children running in and vandalizing the entire school. Because I have seen administrators like locking up bathrooms, which they technically can't do. It's like prohibiting kids from going into spaces alone at all. And so there's like there has been a certain level of overreaction to it of like, yes, they're doing damage. You still have to let them pee. Thank you.
Yes, locked up like COVID related stuff, not locked up like shit.
No, we've all been stuck inside. We've all been. Listen, I'm not saying all these children are coming straight out of jail into the schools, ripping things off the walls. No. They've just all been stuck inside for 2 years.
We all reacted
Yeah,
differently. Some of us did property damage, and some of us bought LED lights and made TikToks. Like we all have different ways of coping.
Things.
And adopted cats or plants or got a new tattoo.
I think for me, it's not even the theft. It's truly just the like, you filmed yourself. You provided the evidence.
Yeah, they did provide the evidence. You got to learn somehow. They'll figure it out after this.
Like I realize that their frontal lobes aren't fully developed, and like that's the difference really between being like a teen and an adult. But at the same time, like guys, Law and Order SVU has been on like Law and Order in general has been on the air long enough that you have to have seen at least one episode.
Yeah, Michael, they ripped the hand dryers off the wall, and then the police were just standing right outside, and they were immediately arrested.
I mean, what else are school resource officers for?
That is precisely what they are for.
All right, shall we move on to the next article?
Yeah.
Probably.
I think we should go next to the Chinese version of TikTok limiting kids to 40 minutes a day. As soon as I figure out how to make CNN dismiss this giant banner ad.
I'm going to assume that they're limiting it so that their kids don't start doing the theft thing.
They saw the American children all stealing things from their school, and it's like, no, we're cutting you guys off.
Cut it off.
That would not stop a single 13-year-old. I don't know what you were talking about.
So, the Chinese version of TikTok is introducing a teenage mode that will limit the amount of time children under the age of 14 spend on the short form video app to 40 minutes a day. The measure will apply to all Douyin users under the age of 14 who've registered for the app using their real names, Beijing-based ByteDance announced in a statement on Saturday. Douyin will also be unavailable to those users between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., the owner of TikTok and Douyin added. The company also urged parents to help their children register with real names or otherwise manually enable teenage mode. ByteDance did not immediately respond to a question from CNN Business on how it might enforce the policy for those who don't use their real names.
I mean, that is the whole thing. How many?
Yeah, so like first of all, they've made a policy that it's not going to work, that will do no things.
It will do some.
Hmm.
It will help some children. It will be a decent tool for some.
It will encourage children to engage in the healthy habit of not using their real name online.
Which, quite frankly, not a bad thing.
It is good. Okay, hi, Sadie.
The app also said it will introduce new content ranging from science experiments and museums to art gallery exhibition and natural scenery to, quote, inspire younger teens. Limiting usage of Douyin is a proactive measure by ByteDance to get ahead of potential regulation, analysts at Citigroup Global Markets wrote in a Monday research note. They suggest that the decision could push other internet platforms with short video content to look at implementing similar restrictions. Now, I want to come back to that paragraph in a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you.
Self-assessment and voluntary implementation of minor protection measures by more platforms could help suggest platforms are being more socially responsible and potentially reassure parents and regulators, they added. Douyin had at least 490 million users in November 2020, according to a media research firm, WI Media Research. China regulators have already started pressuring tech companies to curb the amount of time minors spend on their devices. In June, China revised its minor protection law, which requires internet service providers, including social media apps, to set up corresponding functions such as time management, content restriction, and consumption limits for minors. That sounds a lot like not proactively attempting to assuage regulators, but following the new regulations.
Yeah. I don't know why this article is making it seem as if they're like making changes before they need to happen. It already happened.
Because God forbid any company be portrayed as though it makes any decision for reasons other than its own voluntary interest. If they say that the regulation caused TikTok or Douyin to do this, that would imply that regulation is effective in anything. Which is why Citigroup didn't say that.
No, Citigroup would never.
This is like that stuff still, like, I get it. I want to protect the kids and stuff on the internet and whatnot. It's like the whole, that's what I do. But it's such a difficult thing if the parents and or whomever it is that is guarding the children are not actively engaged in that, because it's just, kids lie so much, as we were just talking about. Mm-hmm. And it gets so difficult, and it all just really spirals out of control. Really fast, especially when they learn how to be sneaky or borrow each other's devices or whatever. Like, I can imagine it now. People are going to start being like, hey, I'll do your science homework if you let me use your TikTok for, the 40 extra minutes in a day.
This is already like, I told you that I found my former nanny child on TikTok, and it's because she didn't have a phone, but her friend had a phone, and they were both 11 and they learned to lie. And that's how I then called her mom and said hey, by the way, haven't talked to you in a couple of months here, but your child is on TikTok. I just found one of her videos. Kids are already doing it. They understand that TikTok exists. It's become part of, the center of youth culture. You can't shield them from the existence of it. But sometimes it does just feel like they're just teaching them okay, here's how you be sneaky and get around our filters. We're going to tell you exactly what we're looking for. Here you go, kids. Instead of educating parents on how to actually interact with their kids online and how to talk to them about it and all of the things we all probably kind of wish we had a little bit.
And it's just it's completely, and I parented myself through the internet because my parents had no idea, even by the time
parented ourselves
that my kid's sister, so because my kid's sister is about 20 years younger than I am, and even at that time, my parents and her parents still do not understand internet. They didn't understand how television culture had changed either. I'm going to give exactly one example and then I'm done talking about my own personal experience with this stuff. But just for how far behind some parents are on technology and media and consumption and how your children interface with all of this. My stepdad sat her down in front of South Park one night because it's a cartoon. What harm could it do?
So,
and a lot of parents take that attitude towards the internet.
So I have this question. I mean, we're restricting kids from having access to these things, but what are we supplementing that with? Because a lot of times, like, people get mad at youth for interacting with the things that exist within our cultures, but give no alternatives other than out of sight, out of mind. And I think that's harmful, and I think that it doesn't. So I have no problem with youth going around the thing, because we've all done it. Every generation has that thing that the older people think is a problem. That rock and roll, Facebook, MySpace, whatever the hell you want to put in there. I don't see it as a problem, especially like given the circumstances that we exist in currently, and just like monitoring your kids is a fucking privilege. Like, especially this day and age with like how jobs work and how people are expected to exist and survive within like capitalism. I think like I don't know. It's a weird situation, and I don't think that like shaming those kids or like being upset with them for finding ways to work around those things is necessarily like a healthy conversation.
I mean, like, if you also have to add to that the generation that is children right now, the ones that we're trying to block, their parents are mostly latchkey kids. So this idea of supervision is not necessarily like something that they came up with.
It's so I feel like there's got to be like just ways to give kids tools to be safe. Like there has to be an acknowledgement, like they're gonna lie and they're gonna get on the platforms, and you just have to teach them what to do once they get there. Because like there's a case for me of like I was able to rat out my 11-year-old former nanny child. She had enough magically had enough supervision that I was like able to catch her. But like we have to be giving them the tools to keep themselves safe, because I would have killed for that as a young teenager on the internet, seeing things that I probably should never have seen.
Yeah.
Definitely
the thing is, like,
affected my relationship with the internet forever.
I think it's also because we as adults, or even like their parents, don't know. Like most of us wandered the internet, blind-eyed and bushy-tailed, unaware of how to use it, and maybe now, or even in the space of not knowing how. Like most adults, even like when we were talking about within like Tokyo around like safety and like parasocial relations, how those things all work. Most of us don't know what the fuck we're doing. So I think you're right, Cecilia, that we should be like in a space of like, instead of like restricting them, teaching them how to use the thing responsibly.
Yeah, the thing that I think like really gets frustratingly, I think a lot of parents don't get, is that like there are things we don't want children to do, and the fact that we don't want them to do that is not under any circumstances ever going to stop them from being motivated to do those things. Like we have this sort of cultural delusion that because it would be bad for a child to access certain kinds of content means that child would never encounter that content under their own power. Which means that like all we need to do is make sure that they're not exposed to like predatory adults trying to put that content in front of them. Children will find their way of their own account into dangerous spaces, because children often want things that in retrospect they will regret having wanted, especially if they manage to fulfill those goals.
I mean, yeah, that is one of those things, because we all think we know exactly what we want until we get it sometimes, and it's like, oops, that was too much. But you can't unring that bell. And it's like we want to try to delay any trauma until a person's like ready to like process it. So that's like part of the conversation too, and it just gets hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's the same kind of logic as like not having the sex talk with your kids till they're 16.
They have figured it out by then, guys. They've figured it out. They know.
Like if you're not talking with them about it by then, they've probably already accessed that world.
Michael brought up a good point, that it assumes children don't have agency. Like when you are blocking them out of these, it assumes that they're just like not going to go. Like a portion of kids, I probably would have been one of those kids that if like I got met with any friction, I would be like, I am not allowed here, I have to go. But a portion of the kids are always going to go around because kids have agency. Kids are always going to seek things out that they're interested in, and sometimes those things are going to be in spaces that are not necessarily the most kid friendly. So if we can just teach them how to navigate that properly and teach them when to tap out, it would be good.
Also teaching communication skills of like when they see things like that, and then of you not like as an adult or parent or guardian or a trusted person, not like immediately shaming them or like of having an open conversation and talking about those things. So like in the future, if they do run into somebody who's predatory, instead of them secretly hiding it from you and you not finding out till they're like 27 and sitting in your living room, being able to like have that open conversation, like building trust, because like it's not like a servant master relationship. It's children are just tiny people.
You have to treat them like they're people. It's a funny story, everyone. We have to treat kids like they're
exactly.
Humans.
Like there's so many people who are like, well, we just have to protect the children. We have to protect the children. No, these are adults in training. Stop fucking it up.
You have to talk to them. It's okay. They're gonna. There is that want to keep them insulated until they're like old enough to start processing it, and that's not a bad want. But there are ways to sort of like slowly introduce the concepts as you go along, so that like if you're introducing the concept of like I have bodily autonomy from a very young age, and part of that extends to my online life, and if somebody's asking me for pictures or things that I'm not comfortable with, or if someone's asking me questions I'm not comfortable with, like if they have that concept from a young age, introducing the concept later of internet safety is going to be easier. So it all builds on just treating your kids like people.
I also think that insulation is very like much of like a white people thing. Like a lot of like people talking about, oh, I'm protecting my kids from like these bigger concepts. I feel like it's something that only pertains to white children. Because some of the stuff y'all are talking about, I knew about from a very young age, just because like it's part of like your lived world of living in a certain place, especially being like a latchkey kid. Like here are the things you need to understand, and here's the things that you need to be able to survive under these things, and here's how you talk to adults or specific kinds of adults and things like that. So I think it's very like being able to insulate your kids like that. Is very much like I don't want to say like it's exclusively a white people thing, but it's definitely.
I mean, you're not wrong. I would even go further to say that it's not just a white people thing. It is it kind of springs up from the whole Anglo-Saxon white people thing, because it is very rooted in this idea of Christian morality. For context,
see, here's because I, as someone who grew up with those parents, as a sweet little waspy child, as someone who grew up with that, it's not even just that like Christian idea of keeping the children pure. It's that there's that like hippie granola version of it as well. It's not limited to just it's all over. It's anyway.
I mean, I don't even mean it. I don't even mean it in like the. I didn't even mean it in so much the like you go to church kind of way. I just mean it more in like the culture that I came up in was very much if you ask a question, you're old enough to hear the answer. It may be an age-appropriate answer, but you're old enough to hear the answer, which is also why, like, I had the sex talk by 6 years old, because that I asked.
Because like the television fantasy family version, so. And the majority of them are white families, so things like the Brady Bunch, for example, and like Partridge Family and whatever, and like even in the ones where they were meant to be dysfunctional, like the name just went flying out of my head, but the more recent one is like Married with Children, for example. And then even if you look at ones that were meant to not be white people, they still kind of had more of that consumer ready for white audience and whatever.
Ready for white audiences. Yeah.
So I might venture to suggest that like the 5 of us as the kinds of people who decide to help run a labor union for online content creators might be a sample of people who in general did not have that kind of parent.
Well, there is that too. But anyway, I feel like we could talk about this for a long time too, but I don't know if we want to maybe.
I mean, I think the end of the story is we need to be treating kids like people. We need to be producing the resources, and sort of like encouraging people to talk with their kids, encouraging like this to be worked into fucking school curriculums, for God's sake. Like this should be something that everybody gets no matter where they are or how much time their parent has. And not everyone is going to get it. And the best thing that we can do as adults who are responsible is also look out for those kids where you're like, you are obviously a child and I'm going to handhold you out of here. I'm just going to make sure that nobody does anything weird to you in my comment section. And like I think I don't know how much talking TikTok is doing with people who are actual experts in this area, because this does not feel like advice from good experts. You know, this feels a lot like advice from people who do not want TikTok to get into legal trouble. And the best way that they are finding that they can just like wash their hands of it is by saying like, well, we'll provide a safe version for them. And so this is just like yet another thing to add to the list of like, they need to be talking to a wider array of people about this because this is not the best possible option. Stop growling at me. Stop. Go on. I know. Thank you. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Like YouTube Kids.
Yeah, Michael just brought up YouTube Kids is way worse. YouTube Kids is way worse. So at least we have that bar. Like we're not there yet. YouTube Kids is a nightmare.
Some wild shit on YouTube Kids.
Wild shit on YouTube Kids.
The things people do with Roblox never ceases to amaze me.
No kidding. I still remember that one time a few years back to and I'm going to be delicate but direct also when I found out that on YouTube, because I'd come across a couple of these like weird videos where it's just like a person playing blocks with their child, toys or whatever with their child, and I'm just kind of like, what the hell is this? Why would anybody find this entertaining? And it's a non-sexual way for predators to view children and get around it. Speaking of getting around all the filters, it's ridiculous.
Why is the internet this way? Anyway,
it is the internet, but it is truly the problem is humanity. So why is humanity? Why do
we need to be thinking of it that way?
So what's next?
I know, right? How about that subject change?
I'm just saying, we have the option of listening to me yell about captions.
We do. That's one of the available articles. Do we want to lead with that? Or
yes, let's do it. Let's do it.
All right.
Which I must also say that I found out that they took away the multiple voices feature from me again, and I'm really pretty pissed about that. Other than wanting playlists like everybody else does, I really liked the multiple voice feature, so they better bring that back or else I may riot.
I would just like to address that glasses for your ears is a very strange way to put hearing aids.
Thank you.
Glasses for your ears exist. They're called hearing aids. I don't really understand why they did this.
I mean, I think the idea here is that the captions are glasses for your ears and that they help you see, they help you perceive text that is difficult to hear.
So
yes, it's one of those overthinking looks like.
That's hearing aids.
Okay, but like you understand that when they say glasses for your ears, they are not referring to hearing aids in this headline?
Listen, I think the bigger point is that whoever made this headline, I want to do physical harm.
I know.
Pretty sure that was a quote from an influencer in the article.
Well, then I
fucking hope so. I hope it's the young lady at the top of this article.
Listen, I got enough fight for everybody.
Like that is a quote that is going to go down in history if it is contributed to that person. They're going to be like, you're the person who forgot that hearing aids are a thing, that you don't actually need glasses for your ears, and that the secondary having captions for either someone who is either hard of hearing or has no hearing or is like neurodivergent and needs to both see and hear what is going on to comprehend. Like,
okay, but like, would this headline be better if they had said captions? They're like hearing aids.
No,
they could have just left the semicolon.
Listen. Journalism is hard, and
No, it's not.
journalism's hard, and it requires so much these days. And I'm gonna. We all understood the assignment, even if it wasn't written. A B minus, for the title.
All I'm saying, I am adding glasses for your ears to the list of things like sound bagel, tornado horse, fucking cube water. No.
These all sound like amazing indie bands in the early 2000s, by the way.
That's correct.
Are you talking about Crash Blossoms?
Any number of
Is
made
that
up
a
names.
real band?
No, it's a headline phenomenon.
Stop. Anyway.
Enough.
If we have time at the end, we can go to the Wikipedia article on Crash Blossoms.
Fine.
TikTok creator Alyssa McKay has perfected a persona people love to hate. A Regina George-esque rich girl whose bouncy raps are packed with in-jokes about Met Gala invites and counterfeit Dolce & Gabbana purses. But despite their fun lyrics and high production values, her sketches are far from guaranteed to hold the interest of her 8.7 million followers, who may be scrolling their feeds with their phones on mute while at work or watching TV, or whose English might not be fluent enough to keep up with her torrent of references and disses. For McKay, the solution to many of these obstacles is the same: subtitles. Our attention spans are so short now that I feel like closed captioning and putting captions on the screen, if closed captioning isn't an option, is so crucial, said McKay, 21, who lives in Portland, Oregon. It captures the attention of people, and they're able to actually process what's going on. This has the vibe to me of like those like TV ad, like that hour-long ad things. I know there's a name for that, but like the as seen on TV stuff where it's like stuff made for info. Thank you.
There you go.
Infomercial, yeah.
Stuff that's like clearly made for people with disabilities, but they don't ever show a person with a relevant disability using that thing.
The fact that second paragraph lists every single person except for who captions were initially created for. Like, is this ableism? I can't.
I mean, I think pretty unambiguously, yes.
Yeah.
But it's like covert ableism because
Is
it's
it
like
covert though?
it's dancing around only to the people
Listen.
who aren't like on top of it.
If we ignore the disabled people, they'll just go away.
At best, and I think this is giving them a lot of credit, this is an ableist microaggression.
Yes.
Anyway, keep scrolling. Hang on, wait, 1 second. So first of all, I love discovering that there's like someone that 8.7 million people follow that I've never seen or heard of. Love every time that happens to me with TikTok.
I mean, if somebody has more than 2 million followers, it makes perfect sense to me that I've never heard of them.
I'm not engaging. And does she? It is saying that she raps.
Yep.
All right.
In fairness, I'm only aware of the D'Amelios tangentially. I have never seen a single D'Amelio on my For You page.
Let me tell you, the description of this girl, and then followed by she lives in Portland, Oregon, perfectly describes
Everything lines up.
Yeah, like it's this makes sense. Okay.
That was like the last little piece of the puzzle. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, great.
A video app known primarily as a place to watch dances and lip syncs set to popular songs. Yeah, so you see what side of TikTok this article is about.
I was just about to say, I'm like, it's not for that anymore, like at all.
TikTok has emerged as an unlikely forum for text in the form of its increasingly ubiquitous captions. Open the app and you'll see them everywhere. Overly to top memes, embedded in stand-up comedy clips, flashing by in movie trailers. Users can write their own in a number of eye-catching fonts and colors, or, as of April, let TikTok auto-generate them. April for some people. The platform's closed captioning hashtag CC sits at more than 4 billion views. This might seem surprising. After all, subtitles are a notoriously big obstacle for American movie audiences who rate foreign language films lowest of all film genres. And the Gen Zers who make up TikTok's main demographic grew up on an internet rich with video and audio, where reading was strictly optional.
Who wrote this article?
Was the opinion of this writer that actually Gen Z has never read anything in their entire life, so they wouldn't read captions?
Yes.
That's
Maybe
not
they
true. There's an
just-
entire generation that's grown up on anime. There's no way in hell. There's no way in hell.
Maybe they just interviewed the auto moderator bots
I don't know who
this.
this man. I don't know who
It's
this
just-
male presenting person is named Brian. I don't know who Brian is, but I guarantee he's white and he's bald and he's in the verge of balding.
What is Brian's name? Tell me Brian's name.
Contreras.
Brian. This. Oh, yep. This is you on Twitter, Brian. No, he's not balding.
Oh.
He's young looking. Can't tell if he has a baby face or not.
I would
Started
like
in the
to
Times in
have
2020 as an
more-
intern.
See, this is he got the instructions right as if you are writing this for your grandfather. Explain what TikTok is in the briefest of terms and the easiest of terms.
But also do it while intoxicated and half informed.
I just like it. Really? So my thing is, they reference the hashtag CC, which if you've never clicked on that hashtag, is like a crap ton of content specifically for deaf creators and for deaf audiences.
Yeah,
Did he just like not look at it?
it's distinctly possible.
I mean, he got the
Listen, you can
number.
at him on Twitter. At him on Twitter later if you want to fight. We can't fight him here. He can't hear us.
Although there's a drift in digital technologies away from text and toward a more multimedial representation of reality, multimedia is not a drift away from text. That's a drift toward adding text to things that don't have. UC Davis communications professor Martin Hilbert said TikTok subtitles complement rather than replace the app's core video elements. It's part of a general trend to more fully represent reality, Hilbert said, citing an academic framework called media richness theory. Okay, so I think this professor knows what he's talking about, and Brian just doesn't know how to write about what.
Yeah. I was
Because
just
the
about to say
professor's
that
like
most
contradicting the
critiques
thesis of the article, and he's just like saying oddly, and then counterpoint to the article.
I'm concerned about whether or not Brian has
Hang
ever
on.
read a book.
Listen. We can critique the writing of this article all day, but what is the actual? I'm trying to get to whatever his core message of this article is, which I don't think we've gotten there yet, even though we're a decent ways in.
Okay, well let's all hold our popcorn from the peanut gallery until we get to the end.
Yeah, let's just skim. I think that the thesis of the article is just captions are popular on TikTok, and that's surprising.
I think it's only surprising to I don't want to say older people, but I'm going to say older people. I think it's only surprising to older people. I think it's pretty normalized nowadays to have captions in the.
It's because and it's I forget how many, what percentage of users on TikTok are using TikTok on mute. Like by their own reporting, they have the app muted because they're like watching it.
This is very deep into the article to get to this point.
Well, working.
What does it say?
Of course, the prevalence of captioning on TikTok in other parts of the internet isn't just a question of capturing market share in the attention economy. It's in large part the result of advocacy of accessibility for the deaf and hard of hearing. TikTok has said it works with creators and disability advocates to develop accessibility tools such as the auto captioning feature. So cool. Their first citation of TikTok is TikTok talking about disability.
How far down is that?
More than half.
I was just going to say, I see the scroll bar on the side there. Like, that is.
That's why it's important to read the entire article, guys. We have to model the things we tell people to do. We have to model the things we tell people to do.
It's okay. We can judge and then
You think I don't
reassess and
actively
move on.
talk about person?
My issue here though is there hasn't been not everyone has captions yet.
Correct. Also, the auto captioning feature is so glitchy that even if you have it turned on,
we know that it's not even getting that far into critiquing it. It's the fact that it's being reported as if it is a universal feature when it still isn't, even for US users. Why? I love living off a main road. So, but it's not even a universal feature with English speakers, let alone like US users. Like I think Canadians are still sort of having issues with getting them in general. So this is that is my main issue with the article. It's like he has to sell it, and I get it. He has to sell it to a bunch of readers of a print newspaper that might not understand why TikTok is relevant. And I get that almost every reporter that talks about TikTok has to do that. So burying the lead of accessibility, I see why it happened. I don't like it, but I see why it happened. My issue is factually, it's not completely correct.
I mean, I will say that he did mark that a lot of these captions are self-created. They are not using the auto. So like clearly there's some awareness there. I just don't understand what the point of this article even being printed was if they weren't going to discuss anything of merit.
I mean, I think the point of printing this article, almost every article in every newspaper is to fill column inches.
Sometimes I really miss the days of print when you had to limit what you had to put in there. I
have worked for local papers, and in my experience, you can't make the paper short enough that you don't have to add bullshit to fill it sometimes.
Oh, we had a problem with that all the time. The Daily Collegian was all cutting shit.
It does. Wait, look, but I'm looking. It does seem that they're actually talking to people they should be talking to now in the article.
So yeah, the second half of the article is the article.
Yes. The first half of the article is a lot of introduction to try to make people interested in this who wouldn't already be interested.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I think that's fair because like we all live in this microcosm, so we know all this shit.
Yeah, this is.
I think that the interesting thing here is, contrary to the popular ableist consensus, adding a high density of captioning to media isn't alienating abled audience members.
Yeah, we like it.
Like that's an interesting observation. I just wish they'd taken the article and put it in the other order.
But they can't, and that's the problem. And it's because of who they have to sell this to. It's like reading, this is Taylor Lorenz's like daily battle. Is everything she writes has to start with justifying the existence of the article and trying to draw people in who wouldn't normally be drawn in. So like, I get it.
Newspaper subscriptions. Like none of us are paying for the $25 a month for.
I do not pay for the Los Angeles Times, but I pay for the Washington Post.
This is not a personal attack on you, Cecelia.
No, but I mean, this is it. Is they have to lure people in. They have to get people to pay for stuff. There has to be an acknowledgement, like, yes, this is going to happen. There's going to be fluff at the beginning of the article. Do I love that they waited quite that long to introduce, like, hey, by the way, this is great for deaf people? No.
Yeah, it could have even just like been half a sentence at the top, like, comma, implemented to meet ability or access needs for deaf and hard of hearing users.
Yeah. But again,
at this point with articles, I'm sorry to kind of interrupt, but now I wish that articles like this were more like Wikipedia articles where you've got the couple different sections of like, intro, and you can just skip on down to it by clicking the breadcrumb, because this was like we're all saying, that was a ridiculous amount of fluff that we really did not need.
Send me straight.
They made us judge this guy so hard.
Well, here's the thing. All of that aside, which I could pick this article apart technically forever. The meat of the article, even when they're talking to sources in the deaf community, it never addresses the core issues with the systems that TikTok has, which are a greater issue in media. And like, they very easily could have linked this to YouTube taking away its captioning system, where you had community captioning. You can easily link this to so many other things that could have been the pull or the draw that actually talk about something substantial. And instead it's just, look at this nifty feature that's helpful to some people.
I will say I am glad that the consensus of the article is like, hey, this does not turn abled people off. In fact, abled people really like captions too.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is something that needs to get communicated to people, because I don't know why we're all under the impression that captions are bad and make people disengage with the media they're watching.
Yeah, and contextual, I think that like this article, the form of this article that I think would be good, that is nearest the article it actually is, would be contextualizing it as like curb cuts. Like,
yeah.
Like that is an existing concept in disability studies, is that, and for the benefit of people watching, curb cuts are the like things that are cut out of sidewalks so that you can get a wheelchair up them. It also lets you get your shopping cart up them or your baby carriage up them. It makes sidewalks a lot more useful for a lot of people outside of the people that they're there to serve. And that is the case with a lot of accessibility tools, is that they're really helpful for both people with disabilities and people without them, or without the relevant disabilities. And this article makes a strong case for captions being an example of that. Contrary to the like cultural expectation in the United States that captions make abled
people hate
abled viewers less interested.
I would love to bring in from quite a while ago Michael's comment that captions are sounds for your eyes, and I think that's a lovely way to round this out. Like, this is I think this is just like the issue we have overall is because we are deep in it. We know the problems already. And so it is frustrating to see how people have to sell stuff. But God knows, like, I do it all day on TikTok. I'm like, here's how I have to couch things to make people pay attention.
Yeah, I do this for a living. I teach people social justice issues, like from a 101 standpoint. And a lot of times I have to make sure that people who do that work aren't there in those spaces, because they get so frustrated with that everybody isn't where they are, but you have to start from somewhere. And a lot of times it is these very basic things, and there's some hand holding in there, which is why you pay people to do that. I tell people I only do this because I'm paid to do it. Like I believe in the work, because I think a lot of times acting like spaces like around social justice issues are very like elitist and like, you know, guard off or ward off people around like language and knowing things and having time to do those things. And so you need those kind of spaces. I understand like the frustration, but like you need, with like people are in different places in their learning, and as long as people are taking steps towards that learning and people are paying people to help people walk through that, I think it's important to have those things.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to pull up the last article now. A teenager on TikTok disrupted thousands of scientific studies with a single video.
What did he do?
Right?
If this isn't amazing, I'm going to be sad.
The July 23rd video is short and simple. It opens with a recent Florida high school graduate, self-described teen author Sarah Frank, sitting in her bedroom smiling at the camera. Welcome to Side Hustles I Recommend Trying, Part 1, she says in the video, pointing to users to the website prolific.co. Basically, it's a bunch of surveys for different amounts of money in different amounts of time. That video got 4.1 million views in the month after it was posted and sent tens of thousands of new users flooding to the Prolific platform. Prolific, a tool for scientists conducting behavioral research, had no screening tools in place to make sure that it delivered representative population samples to each study.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, no.
Suddenly, scientists used to getting a wide mix of subjects for their prolific studies saw their surveys flooded with responses from young women around Frank's age. For researchers who rely on representative samples of the U.S. population, that demographic shift was a major problem with no obvious cause and no immediately clear way to fix.
The internet has never been ready for people. You know, like, like the internet we've never grappled with the fact that the users of the internet are people, and people will do the wildest shit purely by accident.
Yeah.
I feel like
the internet is incredibly reactionary. And the
that
fact of
curtain
the matter is
gonna be
that we as
pulled back,
humans,
nobody knows why.
we as humans we have so much chaos in us, whether we want it or not.
She didn't
I
know
feel like
she was about to scroll this up.
a question anybody should ask themselves when they're setting up a business on the internet is, what happens if this goes viral? And in this case, the answer very clearly is, well, we provide surveys for scientists. If this goes viral, it's likely to affect the diversity of their samples. We should build in advance some tools for mitigating that.
That would be no, because that's not reactionary, and we only do reactionary on the internet. Were you not listening?
That is excellent business advice. Do I think anyone is ever thinking of that as they're setting up a business? Probably not.
The kind of business advice
have screening tools to begin with anyway, because
I think there are companies that considered that when they were setting up their business. BuzzFeed, for example.
That BuzzFeed is built on the premise that it will.
Yeah.
But like most businesses that are providing some kind of service like this, that are not just like, I'm pumping out articles to make people click on them, have not necessarily considered what would happen if a teenager's TikTok randomly went fully viral and got shared tens of thousands of times. During a pandemic when people needed money.
Yeah. So most popular zip code is 90210 because of the stupid show. Do they also put 8675309 for their phone number?
They should. The other zip code people put is 12345, which is the GE plant in Schenectady. They have a special department just for that.
I love that you know that.
That's because it's where I'm from. Again, I'm just surprised they didn't have something set up before.
Yeah.
I can't stop laughing. I'm sorry. This is, she clearly meant absolutely no harm by this and was trying to spread good information in a time where people are facing like intense economic uncertainty all of the time. But Jesus Christ.
It's like they're offering a service to scientists, and they had no tools for data control.
That's that feels like they did a bad job on their part.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I feel like it could be as simple as, you collect your demographic data first, and if you've already filled your quota on that demographic data, you say thank you, move on, like bye.
Yeah, that is extremely a tool they could have built.
That is incredibly blowing my mind, because it's like there was a time in my life when I did Amazon Turk, like what you're talking about there, just for like just to try stuff out, and then like I'm involved with a bunch of other folks that are like doing research. I cannot tell you how many times I've done like the pre-interview type thing, pre-screening, and thank you for one of these survey things, and I don't qualify. Like I don't qualify for many reasons. So I love this. I really do. But I'm still floored at how did they not get to that screening process like I've seen happen hundreds and hundreds of times before.
I feel very, very bad for all of these behavioral scientists. And also, this is very funny.
It's oh God.
But it's like also on the other hand,
getting affected by this is the.
On the other hand, I still wonder also, like, is this...
Oh, no, the behavioral lab at Stanford is the one using this?
Like, it's not a bad thing, but it's like, could this possibly be a more good thing than they realize either? Because people want to get on top of, like, trends that are changing and whatnot, and it's like, the future is not what the past was, so this is them dipping their toes into the reality of what the future may hold. So hold on to your saddles and strap in, folks. Like let's make this something a bit more viable going forward. Like I hope
yes,
it does
they're
mention
gonna,
that.
they're gonna live and learn. They'll live and learn. Great for. I mean, it's Stanford. They'll be fine.
The behavioral lab at Stanford mainly uses the newer, smaller, prolific platform for online studies these days, Hall said. While many Mechanical Turk customers are big businesses conducting corporate research, Prolific gears its product to scientists. The smaller platform offers more transparency, promises to treat survey participants more ethically, and promises higher quality research subjects than alternative platforms like Mechanical Turk.
That's why they weren't prepared, because of trying to do it ethically.
Yep.
That's exactly why they
Yep.
weren't prepared.
Yep. Oh.
So I run into that problem a lot. I get a lot of I have a lot of houseless advocates that yell at me about the amount of barriers that I put up for around things within my organization. And you try to do the best you can, but you also still are if you take in large amounts of people, there's data and things that you need. And so that's the problem, is because they try to do it ethically. They weren't prepared for the large influx of things that come with that.
They weren't.
So for the higher quality, for these people who are smaller, in my opinion, they expect to not be known. So they expect that the only people who are ever going to discover this are going to be this elite class of people that they only want. It's their ideal, group of people that they want coming into doing this. And I think that's what they're trying to say there. Even, they're just trust us, man.
If that's the case, then they're definitely doing this wrong, because if the people arriving at their site are filtered for a specific class, it's not a representative sample.
Right.
Hey, TX, can you just read this tweet, because it's one of the funniest tweets I've ever heard?
Analyzing N equals 300 prolific study, very generic title and description, survey questions mostly about social comparisons and money. 91% of respondents are female, 7% are male. Don't think I've miscoded anything, and no unusual survey restrictions. How does that happen?
I'm so sorry, sir. Your data is absolutely fucked. I'm sorry. I know there had to have been other scientists who took to Twitter and were like, something's weird here, but I'm not sure how. I feel like I might have done something wrong.
The best part of that is that the answer is literally internet, LOL.
Wayne State psychologist Hannah Schechter seems to have been the first person to crack the case. This may be far-fetched, she tweeted, linking to Frank's video, but given the timing, virality of the video, and the user's follower demographics.
This is just the most science people talking to science people language.
They're just trying to be precise. They're making a hypothesis.
I love that they're doing that. That's exactly what they're doing. This is it's so wholesome. This is a wholesome problem.
Long-standing prolific survey takers complained on Reddit that Frank had made it difficult to find paid surveys to take on the overrun platform. Now it's just another bullshit site to spend hours and make pennies on, wrote one user who said they had previously made $30 a week on the platform. Wow, $30 a week?
Listen, sometimes that makes a goddamn difference.
I realize that can be a big deal. I have a tier on my Patreon that just says overdraft protection for $1 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that a lot too. That is, because there's, I mean, $30 a week, that's 1 or 2 meals, and for
but just
family.
It's not nothing. However, it is kind of intensely funny that there was
very angry about going from 30 a week to pennies for hours. I really want to know how many hours you put into that $30 a week.
Is 30 a week still technically pennies for hours?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're only putting 2 hours into surveys a week, then that's definitely sub minimum wage.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's fine. He's dealing with the changes
as
best he can without doing any math. We're not going to do the math, and it's fine. I feel simultaneously very bad for all of these studies that this has absolutely thrown a weird wrench into. But
so they do point out that the disparity is dropping off as the people who came to the site via Frank's video are largely abandoning it.
That's good. I'm glad.
According to Bradley, about 4,600 studies were disrupted by Frank's TikTok, about a third of the total that were active on the platform during the surge. Of those, he said the vast majority should be salvageable. Prolific has refunded researchers whose studies were significantly impacted by the surge in women survey takers and introduced a new suite of demographic screening tools. The company announced these steps a month after Frank posted her video. The company has now reorganized, putting a team in charge of demographic balancing in order to more quickly recognize and respond to this sort of problem in the future.
I mean, good. I'm glad they fixed the problem, and I'm glad that it does seem like permanent damage has not really been done.
Yeah.
Again.
I will say, though, if you are someone who's been doing these prolific surveys and you are looking for a place to spend those pennies that you've so hard worked for, we do have a Patreon that you could spend those pennies on, which would help us to both pay people to be on this stream and create more resources for creators like you.
And we do have a support tier for people with virtually no money.
We do?
Yes, we highly encourage you to only give what you can, and if you cannot afford to give, please do not. Please just spread the word. We're a labor organization. We're not trying to take money that you do not have. That's not. We're not playing that game. Thank you for that extremely smooth segue, Micah.
It's so hard.
Before we sign off for the evening, do we have anything to plug, or do any of us individually have anything to plug?
I'm launching a TTRPG that I made on October 1st called Wild Beasts. It is a Monster Hunter TTRPG.
Yeah.
And it's Barnaby Games on Itch.io.
Thank you.
Cool.
That's it? Did we do it?
I got nothing.
And just like immediately before we sign off, I would encourage everyone to go and find the part of TikTok where English teenagers are dumping baked beans on people instead of stealing things from their school. So if you want to get into trouble, kids, just do that instead. It seems less destructive.
I want to know the cultural context behind that so badly.
And if you really need to, you can go to the grocery store and steal the beans.
You can, if you need to steal, take the beans.
But never, we don't endorse stealing beans.
None of us endorse.
But if you're gonna steal beans, don't videotape yourself doing it.
Please.
Insofar as I endorse stealing beans, I am not doing so as a representative of the Online Creators Association.
Yes, also that
Wonderful.
part.
Thank you all for coming. Have a great night.
Good night.